On today's episode of the Command Center podcast, we got a Super Bowl recap. The Eagles are champs, but who was the last team to beat them?
We were.
And did we get a blueprint for the Super Bowl?
I think we might have.
I think we did. So what do we need to do, the Commanders, to get to the Super Bowl game next year? We're going to talk about that today. It all starts right now. Welcome to the Command Center podcast. I'm Logan Paulson here with Fred Smoot and Santana Moss. And as always, we're presented by Cognier Technology. Secure today, shape tomorrow. And before we get into the show today, we're going to do like a Super Bowl preview. We're going to talk about, Commanders' needs and building the future and all that stuff. We just want to remind you, we've got a Command Center podcast. We're doing it live. Tuesday.
You like that? You like that?
You like that?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Tuesday, February 18th, 7 to 8 p.m. on Big 100. You can listen to us on the radio and iHeartRadio app. However, if you want to come, it's going to be at the Davio in Reston. Now, it's reservation only, so make sure you call ahead. The number will be in the description. We'd love to see you guys. We'd love to come out there and support. They did a thing with Adam Peters earlier this year. It was a great event.
Yeah.
They do a great job with that. So make sure you come check us out. That'd be awesome. But
come see us
please
live.
don't just show up. You have to make a reservation. So let's make sure that happens. Okay. So we are also doing mailbag episodes. It's the off season. We want to know what you guys want to hear about. So please leave your questions at ThatHawkOutside.
ThatHawkOutside.
It is.
gmail.com.
He's back.
So ThatHawkOutside.
Yep.
At gmail.com. And the Hawk has been outside.
No, the Hawk has been here, and the snow supposed to come this week out here.
I ain't ready. Don't.
Tonight, right?
Tomorrow?
What is today? Monday?
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah, that
I
Hawk
ain't ready
here.
for it.
Yeah.
Never ready for snow.
You from Miami, dude. Just get used to. You a snowbird now, dude. you are not Miami Vice no more.
That's why they say we had to do all this stuff early, because I would be barricaded in my room, in my home.
You don't like to drive in snow?
I don't like to do nothing in snow.
Yeah.
But I just,
So perfect snow day for you. What are you doing?
I'm calling Uber Eats. I'm laying on the couch and I'm going through everything. Apple Plus, Netflix, you name it, every streaming device.
So do you feel, sometimes I feel weird, like calling an Uber Eats or...
When it's not safe outside?
Yeah.
That's their job. They get a bigger tip from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give them $10 because I know they out there.
That's just like somebody said they watching a football game, but they cringing because we hurt each other.
Yeah.
It's our job.
Like someone told me one day, I hate watching y'all play because somebody got to lose.
Well, that's the
So
deal.
at the end of the day,
somebody got to lose, like
somebody gotta
Kansas
lose,
City.
you know what I mean?
Like,
So-
listen, I'm just so happy Taylor
There you go.
Swift that Trav didn't get on that knee yesterday because the confetti was green. Like, and I told you before the game, I was pulling for the Philadelphia Eagles because I pulled for the NFC East. Now, not only are we the only division with everybody has won a Super Bowl, we're the only division with multiple. Everybody has multiple Super Bowls. I felt it was going to be a Philadelphia day. I felt like Philly had the best roster, and that roster showed during that game.
All right, before we get to the Super Bowl recap, because that's a really good tease there by Fred. We are an educational podcast at our core, and we fact check ourselves. Actually, you guys fact checked us.
Yes,
and so just to recap, I didn't even remember. It was the trade between the Bears and Khalil Mack, right? That was the Bears and the Oakland Raiders.
Oakland Raiders at the time.
Okay, so the Bears gave 2 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick and a 6th-round pick.
Yep.
The Bears received Khalil Mack, a 2nd-round pick, and a conditional 5th-round pick.
Yes.
So I think I read it wrong last time.
You were wrong.
You guys were.
Jason was wrong.
And you guys were very mean about it in the comments. But we are educational. We're here to educate you, and we want to make sure that information's out there.
You got everything you deserve.
Yeah,
I got everything I deserve?
Yeah.
You were on the show, too.
And I think I said, I don't know if that's what the picks was.
Yeah, you say that. You agree with everything.
I felt like it was just too many picks.
You were like, yeah.
I feel like it was just too many picks.
Yeah, it is a lot of picks. So conditional return, all that stuff's important. And so I don't think it changes our opinion about Myles Garrett getting him here and what it would take to get him here. Obviously, there would be maybe some more maneuvering.
By any means necessary. Did we learn anything from the Super Bowl?
When Fred says by any means necessary, if Adam Peters thinks it's appropriate, that's what we think.
That's what I'm saying. But like a game changer.
This guy's trying to get himself in trouble.
Yeah, he
all
is.
the time.
No. I'm just saying, like some players, put it like this. Could you agree with me on this? I am Smooshadamus, the real draft guru. You are
I'm a guy.
Prospect Paulson. Could you agree with me? Even Abdul Carter is not a Myles Garrett in this draft.
I would say that's probably true. Although I do think he's close. From a pass rush perspective, he's close.
Yeah.
But I do think that Myles Garrett's special because he's done it. He's proved it.
Yep.
And that's why he's
But also
valuable.
when seeing how these guys was able to kind of go out there and pick the right kind of guy, whether they was a Myles Garrett or not, and put them with a team that was going to play the way we play, the culture that we set over here, that's what leads me to say that, hey, I'm not big on stretching. You know what I mean? Giving too much up just for somebody who I felt that have shown he's a Hall of Famer already. You know what I mean? Like, what more do he has in the tank? Don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure he's still about 12, 14 sacks a year.
Yeah.
But do we really actually need a guy like that?
Well,
you know what
I think a guy like that opens up everybody else. So when I get a guy like that, I'm not counting his sacks.
Gotcha.
I'm counting the overall attention.
How much better everybody else going to get?
Because we were talking about the Super Bowl, and we were like, Saquon had him in the yard, but get what Saquon did do.
Yeah.
Open it up for Devontae
All the
Smith to go
receivers,
get ball, A.J. Brown,
Dotson.
because there's one safety in the middle of the field. They're not playing. So it's like, what all is he bringing when he's not making plays?
I got you.
And think about this. Think about overloading the side, having Myles Garrett on one, Louvu on the other one. So, how many people got one-on-ones because they double teaming him?
Yeah, it really kind of affects how you do the sliding.
Great point.
And to talk about Myles Garrett, he's a special player, no doubt, and he's special amongst special players. Like when you watch those top guys, he's got multiple ways to win, multiple pass rush moves, can line up in multiple spots. Like
Stays healthy.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt that he's a special football player.
Yeah.
It just is the price right and is the right fit? And
Are you willing to give it up?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So just to get that little fact check thing redone. But yeah, I think we kind of have our same takes as before. All right, so now let's get on to the Super Bowl recap. And just before we get started, was anyone surprised?
Did the game went the way it did?
I hate to say it, but I was, because I was rooting for the Chiefs.
I know you were.
I thought Andy and Pat, Pat and Andy would go out there and do what they do. Show, be magical, And I just feel like when you have Spags on the other side, we give so much credit to Pat Mahomes and talk about, I guess you can say just because how he started his whole NFL career. Like, he's been a winner from day one.
Yeah.
And the way he plays the Buffalo Bills and all those other teams in his division, and he just finds a way to will his team to victory. It wasn't no willing your team to victory the other night.
His first half showed everything.
It didn't matter what, and he tried. He tried at times. He tried to be magical. He tried to get outside the pocket, do things. Man, those guys over there in Philly, man. We talked about them being juggernauts. They showed it. They showed the Super Bowl Sunday.
And we talked about this last week, and I was like, the only roster spot that I felt like Kansas City, group wise, was better was quarterback.
Yeah.
And it showed. Like, it literally showed throughout the game.
Do you think we give Jalen Hurts too much flack for? And I'm trying to see why, because I feel that every time we got ready to face him, I'm talking about nationally, we heard that Jalen Hurts has to beat you with an arm.
Yeah.
And guess what he do? Beat us with his arm.
Yeah.
So to your point, Tana, I think the one thing about him is when you look at our game, or what is it, the championship game?
Yeah.
Like, that was statistically, by PFF grade,
his best game.
His best game of the year. But okay.
But he pulls it out every time.
So then his second best game is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Outside of that, on average, not a great season. So I think people look at him and they say, like,
we don't know what to think.
Right. And so when he gets to the Super Bowl, like, I heard this on Mina Kimes' show today, like, basically was saying, like, he does have this thing where he's like, he's a gamer.
I'm going to say, big games, he brings it. Like, he's been playing the national championship since he was a freshman in college. Like, we have seen this guy time and time again. And I think he's one of those players because he doesn't do any one thing great. Yeah. He's not the fastest, but he can run. Yeah. He don't have the strongest arm, but he's accurate. Yeah. The only thing you can say is, okay, he got that it.
So it's safe to say if he didn't have the run game the way that he had it this year, and make him more now to the point that now show us, because we're not going to give you that one safety out there. We're not going to allow you to have these open lanes when it comes to passing. We want to see if you can really beat us. Because, you see most teams, when you saw how they played Pat, but they've been playing everybody like that. They rush with their 4. They don't need the blitz.
They don't need to bring more.
And now you basically out there, I don't know how many men you got in route, but you got 7 defenders back there in coverage half of the time. You see what I'm saying? So flip it and put him in that situation. Do you think he get out of a situation like that?
Yeah, no.
And I think that's why people don't want to crown him.
This is another crazy statistic. So time to throw for Jalen Hurts. You want to guess what it is? Average time to throw in the NFL is about 2.3, 2.4. Like that's average time to throw.
Okay.
Want to guess what his time to throw was yesterday?
3 seconds.
3.7.
Yeah.
So talk about offensive line struggle a bit in the run game, but talk about dominating
the pass.
They gave him time.
And so one of my biggest criticisms, this is not a hate on Jalen Hurts show.
It sounds
where he won MVP, deserves MVP, he played well. He doesn't like to let it go unless he can see it.
Unless it's open.
And so he'll hold that sucker. And so what did that offensive line let him do?
No.
Let him hold the mess out of it.
Yeah.
And again, he scrambled, made good decisions, but I think that's giving context to the performance. I think.
So that's basically where they have that little, I guess you could say, doubt when it comes to
he's not
quarterback status.
Pat Mahomes, where elite quarterbacks can fix leaks.
Yeah,
I think he's a guy this kind of Joe Flacco-ish, Dak Prescott. He need everything around him like it was in Alabama and Oklahoma.
Jared Goff's a great example, right? Like he's still good.
He's good.
But he needs a lot of the levers pulled.
He ain't winning the game, but if you give him the opportunity
he will beat you.
Let somebody else, win the game, he's going to throw it to the open guy.
That's why he's a top. That's why he's between 20 and 8 quarterback, right? And not a top 8 to 1, right?
Like, does this win put him in that category?
It's going to pull him.
Because I think it does.
You're going to be able to speak up his name a little differently, but I also say this, though. I'm just happy that he did put it got one on his belt. Yeah. Because his name gets thrown around too much. And
it's always an asterisk.
He has an asterisk by his name the entire season. I remember when we watched the earlier games, it was his fault because they was losing. Yeah. But I'm like, the defense got to stop somebody. You know what I mean? So now you see them be able to overcome all that, and you get to the part of the season where things weren't going so well, and Saquon took off. Yeah. And then he just still found his way. So that's why I wanted to bring his name up, because I just felt like, I'm like, well, damn, this dude just shows up in the big games.
Yeah, so I want to give some context to that. Like, I'm happy for him. Like, he deserves it. He played well, and he does have traits that make him, like the leadership stuff, the competitiveness. But I think it's important to just give a little context. Like, that roster
is impeccable.
Is insane,
it's ridiculous.
Man.
It's ridiculous.
Like that offensive line, we just talked about what they 3.7 seconds to throw is it's an insane number.
Yes,
it's an insane
number. To see them in person, like we have 3 times.
3 times.
And they are mammoth.
And then to say, oh, we got Devontae Smith. Oh, we got Dallas Goedert. Oh, we got A.J. Brown, who's a baller. And then Saquon Barkley. It's like
where's the weakness?
And he's got to make it go.
Yeah.
Like, so this is not, but I'm just saying, like, if I don't know, man.
You can't have a better roster. Not in this league.
It seems that way, right? Yeah. Like it seems like a cartoon. It's something like you would do in Madden.
It almost seems like also just going into this game, you would have if you'd have told me that the game was going to be won because Jalen Hurts won the game. Basically, went out there and scored 3 touchdowns, 1 on the ground. Well, we knew the push tips was going to get seen in the red zone. But if you'd have told me that he was going to be the MVP and he's going to be the reason why they win. I'd have told you you're lying,
And I think this is the other thing too, like just to put a little more, and this isn't, I'm not hating on him. I'm just trying to give a little context here. They had 2 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown and 1 inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
Like,
I
get
it. No, it's a team win.
It's a team win.
That was a team win.
And he deserves everything because he played
to say the least, I'm happy for him though.
Yeah, I'd have for him too because he deserves this, right? But I think that's like the team is so good. The roster is is silly good.
Well, we've been saying they juggernauts. They are definitely juggernauts.
No, they showing you where the line in the sand is.
Philly was celebrating before the Super Bowl even started. The whole week was a Philly week over there in New Orleans.
I had nightmares of getting the kid in my head.
Everything I saw was green. I'm like, man, so did they already give Philly the trophy? Because it seemed like the fans was at an all-time.
It was a Philly crowd.
Yeah,
like the whole crowd was Philly. I was like, KC fan, maybe they just spoiled or tired of going to the Super Bowl.
I saw green.
But Philly was everywhere.
Everywhere.
It was wild. And this is something that we were talking about. So I knew was one of those things where it's like they had the first 3 and out. Philly went down and scored, and when Kansas City had their second 3 and out, I was like, they don't get what
they can't play with this team.
I was listening to my homeboy, and I told you, we always had these conversations. I say we talk football, and he was like, Tanner, Kansas City offense sucks. I've been watching them all year.
Yeah.
I do not want to see that in the Super Bowl. I'm like, nah, man. Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid, man, you can't say that. He said, Tanner, I'm telling you. When that text went across my phone, didn't I tell you that offense poop? Yeah. I say, bro, you've been saying it all year long, so I had to give you your credit. He's been telling me it all year long.
He's a smart man, but every statistical variable you look at, EPA, total points, first downs, they're down. They're like in the 24, 25 range.
So is it that they've been repetitive? I think they've been repetitive.
So I'm starting to believe this ref thing with them again because now I'm like,
they didn't get a call yesterday.
Not yesterday, but I'm like, how did they get here if that offense didn't play well?
I'll tell you what.
Having the best quarterback in football.
It's the best quarterback in football. Like when you look at their third down percentages when they have to have it, they're good. 2 minute, good. Red zone, good. Because dude knows how to deal.
Yeah, he knows how to deal.
I will say on that second, third and out, I was like, they haven't seen this. They haven't seen anything like this. And I know we're gonna hype Philly up here a little bit, but when I said this somewhere earlier, it is the best defense I've seen in probably 4 years.
Yeah. Easily.
The way they cover, the way they rush.
They don't have a weakness.
So that'd be interesting to go back to when Baltimore had Ray and those dudes. However, when you look statistically, total points for, I think I just read this recently. So Baltimore was 17.4. Yeah. And guess what Philly is?
What is it?
17.5.
See, the reason why
they're right there.
And just what you saying that alone, I played against that Baltimore defense with Ray and those guys, and the way the back end played was so different. Like these guys here, they're almost basically back there just saying, "Do the job," and we'll sit back here and when the ball comes,
I was about to say,
catch overthrows.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Tanner. It's such a good point because one of the things about back in the day when Baltimore was playing, teams, you had to stop the run.
Yeah,
you couldn't play too high safety shells all the time.
Yeah.
Here it's too high safety shells. They match stuff great, but then it's those front six, you guys figure it out.
Figure it out.
They get after Keister.
So it's almost like their secondary is protected. They got pretty good guys in the secondary, but they're so protected with just those front guys alone.
And don't forget these linebackers swap paint. Ron and Reston, they swap paint,
man. They got lucky with 53, man. Oh my God.
And the greatest thing going for us is this guy almost won Defensive Player of the Year. Can they afford to keep him? They got to pay Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean's hurt. They're going to have to figure out some stuff.
They don't have to pay him yet, though, right? Because he was drafted 2 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, but he was a fifth round.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. This will be his fourth year. All right, so Big Play Slay won't be there next year. So it's going to... Roseman's going to have to work some more magic because the roster's starting to get expensive.
But you know what's crazy, though, is he's got to work magic, no doubt, but I think they have the most returning players under contract in the NFL.
Yeah, they got a youth movement.
But you think a roster that good would just break apart. Kind of how Tampa Bay was when Tom Brady was there, just going to break apart afterwards.
Kind of like what's going on in Cincinnati right now. Where they capsize and then they like they said, they don't want to pay top billing for everybody in their position. They don't want to give Hendricks his max contract, and then he top 3 in his position. Yeah. Then Jamar Chase will be top 3. Then T. Higgins will be top 3. They just can't afford to pay them all.
Yeah. So okay. Interesting kind of talking point about Philly. We're going to get more into Kansas City here in a second. But the last team that beat the Philadelphia Eagles was
us,
the Washington Commanders. So first off, I think there's a lot of cool things to talk about here. One, Cliff's understanding of Philadelphia's defense, Jane's improvement versus that defense, and we'll talk about that all in a second. But how does that make you feel that we were the last team to beat them, and they did that to the Kansas City Chiefs?
It make me feel like they should be sending us a Christmas card because we knocked off the Detroit Lions and got them out their way, Tampa out their way. And it makes me feel good about our future. Because it tells me, as good as they are with this complete roster, and we knew our roster was kind of incomplete. We went punch for punch with the bully. And so if that's the measuring stick, I feel good that we're not too far off.
Yeah, I feel good for the simple fact that not even talking about the win, just seeing the game, the last game, that NFC Championship game. We fumbled that game away, but at the same time, you saw us still have fight. You saw us still have moments in the game where we was only down 8, down 11, and we found a way to fumble again.
Yeah.
But we showed that we had answers
for everything.
So when I saw that my team was able to find a way to make a play here, have a 17-play drive, and the champs, you mean to tell me the champs that's about to go and try for a three-peat with the greatest quarterback
cannot move the ball.
With the greatest quarterback that ever put on some J's on the football field.
Yeah.
Can't move the ball?
Yeah.
It makes you feel like, man, we got something.
We ain't too far away.
We ain't too far away.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say that, but at the same time, too, you have to put in consideration they are in our division.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where
we used to go into battle
they know
with
us,
them.
we know
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
so that might be a little reason why we had that secret sauce, you know?
Yeah. Do you think we could have beaten the Chiefs, the Commanders?
It felt like it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, I thought when we played the NFC Championship game, I said the winner of this game should be able to beat anybody in the NFC, whoever make it.
Yeah,
you know. So I didn't know if it was going to be Buffalo or the Chiefs, but I'm like,
but they
I was
always
that
tried
confident.
to say that the AFC. Because they got Lamar, they got Joe Burrow. They feel like they got the top 5 quarterbacks in the league.
It is pretty scary.
That was the only quarterback that I think I didn't want to see was Lamar.
Yeah.
In the championship game, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I felt that because they had got down to the point it was going to be Buffalo or Kansas City.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared of neither of those teams.
How crazy is that? Like Josh Allen, Lamar, and Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow.
And Joe Burrow.
But
to me, Joe Burrow he might be more scary than all those guys.
But get what? I felt like out of all those great quarterbacks and them good teams, I felt like Philadelphia roster still outweighed them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think we have this precedent of talking about to get to the Super Bowl, you need an elite quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Philly has kind of broken that mold. Like you look at Detroit's kind of breaking that mold. San Francisco kind of broke it when they went, but they've never been able to beat Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden the roster for Philly is just that good.
We know you don't really need an elite quarterback because there's been quarterbacks that hasn't been elite that won championships.
All of them.
You just need a quarterback that knows how to play the game,
and a gamer,
do his job. You see what I'm saying?
But I think when you
Trent
look at
Dilfer, what he was, he did his job. He got the ball in his hand.
But that's a great point. That was the Baltimore, the Baltimore defense that was so good with Ray Lewis and all those guys, and then they had the best rushing attack in the NFL that year.
Jamal Lewis running that route.
You need to build that kind of team, and it seems so hard to do that. But is it harder to build the best team in football, or is it easier to find?
It's easier to find a quarterback.
No, I think it's harder to find the quarterback.
It's easier to pay for a quarterback.
Yeah,
but it's harder to get that many guys on one team and be able to hold them. You know what I mean?
I just think if you're aggressive in free agents and sign the right free agents, which we know how that goes.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, though, man. Is when you look at them,
you ain't getting that lucky like that. That Philly team is
so lucky. I mean, even New Orleans. When New Orleans had Drew Brees there, and they had that great draft with Lattimore.
Yeah,
and,
all of them.
All
they
those
got
guys.
lucky.
Yeah. And they kind of hit on those guys. They become franchise components, cornerstones. You got to get.
Come on, Philadelphia did not, at their draft spot, was not supposed to draft Jalen Carter. He failed because of an off the field incident. They ran to the podium.
Yeah.
They didn't stop. They ran to that podium and they understood who they wanted, what they wanted, and when you get a generational player like that, don't forget. Come on, we ain't even talking about the fact they drafted Jordan Davis the year before.
Yeah.
He a rotation guy.
Yeah, he's played well for him.
Nolan Smith. They got Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter in the same draft, first round.
I tell you like this, and I'm speaking individually now, talking about players and their careers. I tell folks all the time, I'm like, guys talk to me and ask me questions about who are Hall of Famers and who it is and what it takes. I say, bro, you got to have a little luck on your side, too. I say, you can be a great player and not be a Hall of Famer.
Easily.
Not even be a Pro Bowler because you might not be in the right situation. Team.
Ain't won enough.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So when you watch this Philly team and how everything formed together, you sit in yourself like, you mean to tell me those guys was around in the draft and everybody had a chance to pick them, but they did? Yeah. So sometimes some of that's luck. Some of that, they just failed in your lap because they was right there for the taking. And that's why I scratch my head about it and I say you can't build a team like that in today's league. It's easier to get that quarterback because whether you get him in free agency, the draft, or he's a guy that you develop, you can get the quarter. You can get that one guy. Yeah, but it's hard to say. I don't know, Tanner, but we talk about this all the time. You say line. You say on every level in Philly team, it's a damn.
It's a star.
He might be an all-pro, right?
I think about that. You gotta roll the dice 4 times on the defensive line and come up 7s, right?
Yeah.
And you got to do it twice on the linebacker level and come up 7s. You got to find a good
5
nickel,
DBs.
7s. Then you got to find and the secondary is good, but you hit on Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay.
Oh, bro,
everybody.
Cooper the Gene.
Yeah.
Come on, C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Then you bring a guy in there for 1 year, and he's the best linebacker in the league this year.
He was a special teams player of the year before.
Like, that's a little luck.
I will say this about Philly, which I appreciate, is they go high ceiling prospects.
Yes.
They are a little bit.
So explain that to me.
They trust. Okay, so there's a lot of guys that say I'm going to draft a high floor player. So someone that might not be as good. Like Jalen Carter's a good example, right? He's got some character concerns. Like, is he going to be out of the league?
Yeah, but the talent was never questioned.
So they ain't caring about what you do off the field.
No.
They caring about what you do on the
They
field.
feel like they can nurture you.
I think they care about it, but I think they trust their building
process. Yeah.
To be like, we've got Brandon Graham, we got Fletcher Cox, we got
enough character guys in the building
to keep him where he needs to be.
Yeah.
And then we trust when we draft offensive linemen, we trust Stoutland to develop those guys.
Yes.
We trust Vic Fangio that he's going to get Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean right.
Ready to play in a Super Bowl.
And that's where it's we're looking at the draft here, but they've made specifically this offseason, excellent coaching decisions.
So basically, they do what the Pittsburgh Steelers do with their wide receivers.
Yes,
kind of.
where they can find Pittsburgh can find a wide receiver in a preschool.
Wide receiver, but they character is beyond everything. You know,
some to it.
Yeah.
But also, when you look at what they do, think about this. Mekhi Becton came out, top 10 tackle.
This is maybe
They realized he couldn't play tackles. They he can play
And put him at guard.
At 360 pounds, I'm gonna put him at guard. And dare to say, he a Pro Bowl guard.
I think that's the thing that's crazy. Is in the NFL, you don't develop talent really. It's not part of who you what you do. But you develop Jordan Mailata. Dude never played football before.
No, he was a rugby player.
He comes in and is a baller, right? Then you get Mekhi Becton on a minimum deal. Minimum deal. You sign him, you develop him and again, that's where to me, in the NFL, everyone says it's not a developmental league. You better find somebody to develop something.
Yeah. Yes.
Because if you can develop in-house talent, look at the best offensive lines in football. There are first-round picks on those groups.
Yeah.
But they've developed
Detroit developed that offensive line. Tampa Bay developed that offensive line. Hey, Kansas City offensive line didn't look well. They was highly graded before this. They got some horses on there. They just ran into a better defensive line.
So it's safe to say, too, man, when you just watch, and I'm glad we're talking about this, because when you really watch what we saw from I guess you can say the maturity from our guys that we saw throughout the year, it seemed like you saw for the first time in a long time development. Yeah. These guys wasn't just going out there and saying okay, I'm putting you in the spot. But when we talk about St. Jude's at times, not so good, but think about it. St. Jude's had a better year than he had since he's been here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's certain things that you might just can't do. But we saw a kid that couldn't do certain things that we've been asking, and then you saw him do it this year. So when I look at what we did as a whole, that's what gives me hope to say that we might not need that Myles Garrett. Yeah. Because they have a way of teaching guys to be that dominant. You get Fowler coming here, you get Louisville coming here. They went out there and got the right guys to fit what they do schematically wise, and say, okay, he's going to go out there and get those sacks because I'm going to put him in position.
Yeah, you scheme him up, but that scheme can only take you so far when it's a talent gap.
Every now and then you need a real dog.
So sometimes I need that.
Well, it's a mix, right? It's a mix of free agency and it's a mix of draft, right? Yeah. And I think that's the thing is you got to make sure you're hitting, right? And I think you mentioned the Mekhi Becton thing. That's a great point. And they did a good job of that, of finding A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley.
That A.J. Brown
They
thing.
bought C.J. Gardner-Johnson back.
Yeah.
The year they went to the Super Bowl and lost, he was there. He left and went to Detroit. They brought him back.
They came back.
They brought him back.
I forgot about that.
And so it's a mix. It's a mix of drafting and making. And I think to Tana's point, it's not that they don't get the biggest name.
Yeah.
They get the right fit at the right price, and to me that seems like it's way harder to do than finding.
I think it is. I think that's hard to do because just because somebody was good here, don't make them good here.
We've seen it too often over here.
Because maybe it just ain't my fit. Yeah. Maybe it could be so much stuff.
That's basically, and I know we're getting off topic with some of this stuff, but it's like when people asking who's the Jets quarterback, do they go out and get Bradford again? I'm like, he was there. He doesn't play well in New York.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to separate yourself from different markets or different, areas
won't
because
ever be good as a Jet.
he wasn't good there. You know what I'm saying?
So about Darnold?
I mean,
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't watch
Sorry.
Bradford.
No, I was like, is there a Bradford out there?
Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about the last guy to rob the bank with no mask? You know,
meant to say
Sam Bradford was the last guy before they started bracketing the draft and started breaking the
I
money
always
down.
think about Bradford when I'm talking about Darnold for some reason.
Because they're the same guy almost. But Bradford,
I always bring him
I
up.
think he was the last guy to cash like a $70 million check
But
for
that
being
was the
taken
guy,
number
he
one.
was the last. Yeah, you're right. He was the last guy that got that big deal, and they said, "We know we're putting the cap.
We capping it right now.
Ruined it for everybody.
Yes, thank you, Sammy.
Not for me, but for some of those first round guys. The guy's getting drafted in the first round this year. Probably
my
pissed
God.
at him. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting conversation. And then let's just talk about Kansas City for a second.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
And I think it's an interesting conversation. People tell me, oh, like what do the Commanders need? What do they need to do? Like how do they get better? And I look at when Patrick Mahomes is at his best, he's got 5 dudes in front of him who are dogs, who are good football players.
Yeah.
And then that lets him elevate everything.
Everything else.
If I'm looking at a model, I want to make sure that our guy, number 5,
Stays clean.
has 5 absolute dogs
Beasts.
in front of him that are going to let him do what he does. I think about the Philly game, the championship game.
Yeah.
Just the composure, the competitiveness, the ability to get the ball out of his hands quick, to know what he's doing, tight window throws, you can't ask for anything better. You got it seems like you got the guy.
He got the it.
Yeah.
You got the guy. So with Kansas City, when Mahomes has the guys, he's fine.
Yeah.
Think about the Tampa Bay Super Bowl. Remember that Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Where he got ran all over the field.
Yeah.
They couldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that's a lesson to learn. Is look at Philly's offensive line. Look what they did for Jalen Hurts. Look at Kansas City's offensive line.
Look at Detroit's.
Just go down the list.
Well, no, just look at
even the Bills' offensive line. Even
Tampa,
Baltimore, Tampa.
Like the one thing we know from history, because history already repeats itself. When we won championships here, we had the Hawks, and on the other side of the ball, we had Dexter Manley, Charles Mann. Trench warfare is football.
Yeah.
The team with the best fat boys that smell like bacon will win that game. It shows true.
How long would that take for us to build that kind of line? I feel like
Let's say what we do got.
Yeah.
We got a center. All right.
Got a guard.
We got guard.
Got a guard.
All right. Big Coleman.
Yeah, Coleman gonna be a good.
We got a tackle now.
Yeah.
Is he a legit left tackle or right tackle that needs to?
Or is he
a guard?
Is he a guard?
Yeah.
But that's fine. You got your
So
pieces
you got 3 out of the 5.
But I look at let's look at Philly. We just talked about Philly, right?
Yeah.
You found talent, you developed Mailata, right?
Yeah.
You drafted Landon Dickerson in the 2nd round. You drafted what's his name, the center, I forget his name. But they drafted him in the 5th round as a replacement to sit behind Kelsey for a year.
Yeah.
They developed him, right?
Yeah.
The right guard is a retread 1st round pick. You get him cheap.
Yeah.
You developed him, right?
Yeah.
And obviously Lane Johnson's 1st round pick, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you look at the Bills, it's the same thing. You got Dawkins. You go down,
and
you go,
Reston,
you go down the list.
Yeah,
It's- Some of them are high pedigree guys, 1st round caliber guys, but 3 of those guys you got to develop.
You got to develop or steal.
Develop or steal.
Yep, develop or steal. Like you have to.
Because I feel like I always hear he's talking about developing offensive linemen, and when you watched us play this year, you couldn't tell me that was the same line from last year.
No, they was better coached.
So I'm like, well, damn. So it's all about being coached, being well coached, and having the right kind of scheme.
Yeah.
Because also he talked about our quarterback last year, and at times he's like, well, damn, he got sacked. Not last year before last.
Yeah.
He talked about how many times he was getting sacked, and he was like, well, a lot of that is not on the offensive line. He's got to get rid of the football.
You got to get rid of the ball.
You know what I mean? So to me too, that was scheme wise. You know, that was so when you saw these guys fast forward to this year, at one point we had some of the best offensive line play throughout the whole
Early in the
league.
year, the first 10 games, we ran things.
And the only thing I kept saying to myself was like, I hope the injury bug don't bite us late.
And it bit us late.
You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing too. Like that goes back to what I'm talking
Gotta
about.
have depth.
Gotta have depth. There you go.
Because Juergens, that's what you was talking about, this
thank
center.
you. Yeah, Cam Juergens.
Cam Juergens. Like, for them, like, they was moving one guy. I mean, when Juergens went out, they moved Dickerson. Because that's his natural spot is a center. They moved him to guard. So flexibility is what they have. Plus, they got size and depth.
Size and depth, yeah. And so you're always kind of hunting for that. And I think that's the thing I would look at coming out of this game.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other thing is, like you mentioned this, Fred, already, is the defensive line stuff, right? Like, that just seems like when you have a dominant group, this is something I haven't been able to watch the game yet on all 22, which I'm really excited to do. One thing, however, about this group, they were dominant for sure, is the coverage in the back end for Philly.
It's sticky.
It's sticky, man.
It's sticky.
There's no air back there.
That's what I'm saying. Like you have those guys up front that we saying we trusted in you to get out to the quarterback, but we have these guys in the back end. Like you have a kid. Guy just turned 22.
Two of them.
On the Super Bowl.
His birthday was yesterday.
Yeah, turned 22, and he catching a pick six, taking it to the house.
Yes.
And like just sitting back there, and I'm just looking at this. I'm like, okay, so he's just sitting there doing his thing, but then you got big play Slay on the other side, and then you got your boy Quinyon Mitchell, Florida boy, who just back there that had one of the arguably better rookie seasons in the cornerback play too. So I'm like, how do you get all this?
Because they are used to that rush getting home. They play off man and they slow pedal. Yeah. They let you come to them. No, and if you don't come to them, they're going to come to you and go get the ball.
It was no lanes open.
So to double click on this point, I've mentioned this when we did the Philly preview, and I believe this 100%. Do they have good coverage players? Yes. Do they have a good defensive scheme? Yes. But I think the most valuable pieces to the defense are Bond. And if you look at elite defenses in the NFL, it's not an accident that their middle linebacker is really good. Because what they're able to do is fit the run and then get to coverage spots.
Coverage spots.
Right? And you can match up on running backs and tight ends. So they have two guys like that. They have Cooper DeJean, they have Bond, and then when the guy from Georgia, the linebacker, or Alabama.
Nakobe Dean.
When he was healthy, he was doing that also, right? So I think that's where I would kind of look and say, like, can you get an elite coverage linebacker that can fill zones, flood zones, knows what to do. Like, because when you watch him, it's like when you watch the pick that he has, like they're trying to kind of loop that dude around and talk about hips and feet and open it up and
just turn to go get it.
It makes it so hard. And when you watch the Commanders' offense and the guys they pick on, it's those underneath hook players. You get in zones, Jaden's going to get the ball out, and that was so hard against Philly because you have a guy like that.
Can we debate this then? Because now that I've thought about it, is a interior rusher more important than an edge? Because the last Super Bowl champions, all in the line, the number one rusher was interior. All right, Jalen Carter, Chris Jones on the other side, and before him, Aaron Donald. So could it be said that a dominating D tackle is worth more to a defense than an edge rusher?
So, Tan, you got something to say about that?
No, I want to hear your take on it.
So a couple things. One, I think anytime you can compress the pocket,
from the inside.
That's a win.
That's a win, right? I think you need all four guys to rush well to contain that, because if you press the interior and a guy steps out and you've lost contain, it doesn't mean anything, right? But I think maybe after watching yesterday's game and watching Myles Garrett and watching these guys, you need a guy who can create either quick pressure or internal pressure, right? And so when you look at Micah Parsons, what does he do really well? I think he's got the highest quick pressure rate in the NFL. Myles Garrett, same thing, right? It's easier to manage edge players from a schematic standpoint.
Yeah, because I can bump you with a running back, all kind of stuff.
All that kind of stuff. So I would say, yes, you need a dominant pass rushing player on the interior. But it needs to fit in. So if you watch the game yesterday, obviously Jalen Carter has a great game. You know what I mean? But the idea that the edge players,
Sweat had a game.
But they can win with power, and they're collapsing the pocket as opposed to running around the pocket.
The hump.
I think that's something that people sleep on. Is you need physicality. You need guys that can collapse the pocket.
Organized chaos.
Especially with the way people are playing quarterback now. Right? You just need people that can get that done. So defensive tackles tend to do that more naturally. Right? Think about Chris Jones, all those guys. I think if you get power rushing ends that can collapse the pocket and really force that tightness, that you mitigate what makes
But it
Mahomes
is
good.
a longer route to the quarterback off the edge than it is from the middle of the field. So I feel like if I'm pressing this center, I don't need to sack you all the time. If I can push this center into your lap, I win. And if I can do that 20, 30 times in a game, I change it.
I saw us take out like two of the top DNs this year, and Myles Garrett had no plays against us. I mean, he didn't even have a damn tackle, I don't think, that game. And I forgot who the other guy was who graded out that game. We played them.
TJ Watt.
TJ Watt. So I saw us play two ends well and be able to, chip, do things like that, get the ball out of hand quick. So I believe, just from watching Brady for so many years, when Brady had bad games, he couldn't step up.
He couldn't step up in the pocket.
You get a guy like
the Super
Brady.
Bowl, that New York
You get a guy like Breeze. Remember, Breeze was so short.
Yeah.
He needs to step up because he needs to get it over people's heads. So when you ask that question, I would say to me, and not saying that my answer is right, I would think it'd be
D tackle
because if you got a guy that's disruptive up there and collapse that pocket, where is he going to go? Especially if he's not a runner.
He's stopping more than just the pass. He's stopping the run also.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And again, like, it just the different styles of rusher, the different ways guys can win. You need you need guys that can throw different pitches, you know, and get them all out there on the field together. It's important. And again, like, rushing together as a group is and you see that yesterday, like they didn't really have a plan. Kansas City didn't have a plan. No. And the other thing I was going to say too is game flow. To me, is so important to developing a good pass rush, right? Like, when you're down by 20, they're going to throw the ball. Yeah. And what am I going to do? I'm going to tee
my hair's on fire.
You know what hurted me more than anything? When I saw how much time they spent on making sure Chris Jones was not that hurt. I'm like, bro, is he hurt? Get him out the sideline. Next man come in. Yeah. They like, now we're going to take a timeout. Yeah. we need him. This is who we need. So I knew right then there, like, yeah, bro, they ain't got nobody else. Yeah. They need him to be healthy. You know?
That's what happened when your quarterback makes $400 million and Chris Jones making $35 million a year. So you can't pay everybody.
Yeah, so lots of lessons to be learned from the Super Bowl for sure. And it was kind of, even though it was kind of maybe not the best Super Bowl, like, I thought it was kind of interesting.
Still entertaining.
I thought it's interesting.
I love halftime too.
No. The halftime was so petty, Winford. Like, I enjoyed it.
You should have been like, dude, right on, because you know you petty too.
Listen, I was like, this is getting petty out of hand. When I seen Kendrick blink at the camera, hey Drake, I was like, this right here just petty. Like, here, this is what we need, right? When I see Uncle Sam Jackson out there.
I saw Serena Williams crip walk. I was like, Lord have mercy.
But you know, Serena is his ex.
She's a date.
SZA too.
Yeah,
the other performer. Man, he used to date her. So,
oh my God.
So Kendrick brought two of Drake's exes.
Is that really?
Yes.
No.
So petty. So petty.
I hate it for us Geminis, because now everybody gonna think Geminis feel like that. They petty like that. I ain't that petty.
That man, listen. And when I heard, and you gotta realize, one thing I always say about a Super Bowl crowd.
How did you know that? Is that just
I know everything.
Pop culture?
I know everything.
I know all the tea.
He's in the cut right now.
Man. And you know, the Super Bowl crowd is a corporate crowd. It ain't really a football crowd.
That's what I was like when I was watching this. I was like, they're gonna hate this.
Yeah, they are not really. And when I seen them, and they all got in unison and said A minor. Yeah. I was like, I was like, Drake can't come outside no more. Drake is, I went right then, put on a black shirt and some black pants, say, I'm at a funeral. Drake is finished right now. And then I was like, this is a Philadelphia crowd. Yeah. When they booed Taylor Swift from the door, I was like, this is a Philly crowd. They have taken over New Orleans today. Yeah. And the commercials, I was let down.
That Seal commercial, dog.
The Seal commercial.
Why they do some dog Seal?
Hey, Seal is ignorant.
Well, Seal maybe got paid a pretty good.
No, he did, because they've been trying to get him to do that for like 5-6 years.
He's on the commercial. Yeah. They must be.
They've been trying to get him to do that one commercial.
Really?
And I guess he got to pay child support. Seal was like, man, I got to go and get that money.
They gave him the right zero on the back of that thing. Sign me up.
I did like the Dunkin's Donut commercial.
Those are so funny. I think they're really funny. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, I love the Dunkin's Donut commercial. They were hating on Starbucks. And can we all agree this? We have seen a side of Bill Belichick this last year.
Hold on. Time out.
Do I got a man crush on Bill?
Foul. Did that man walk in there with all them rings on like that?
Yes, he's an idiot now. That's what I'm talking about. He be wilding so much
Bill
right now.
Bill wide open right now. That 24-year-old boy, she doing something to that man.
Listen, Bill living La Vida Loca right now. I love it because he looks so happy. Oh, and like he was miserable coaching.
You think?
Hey, Bill looks happy. I am with him.
I say Mr. T himself.
Dude, it is interesting watching him.
Oh my
For being
God.
like so buttoned up. He's in the Dunkin' commercial. Like, you know what I mean? It's like
going back and forth with Ben Affleck.
I say Bill Belichick done lost his marbles and he walking there with all them rings on.
Bill stunned.
Oh
I guess,
my God.
dude, but if I won all those Super Bowls, I'd wear the rings.
No, we all probably will. But not Bill Belichick.
Listen, this dude.
Not the guy that say I'm just here to do the job.
In 1 year, he has changed the total outlook of who he is. Like,
I think he's ready to go to college. I think he's really ready to go out there and dominate college.
I think that
I can honestly see that happening.
That youthful woman he got.
Yes, what I'm saying.
And that college youthfulness.
Yeah.
This dude gonna leave
I can
forever.
see players going to Bills. Man, I want to go. I'm going to come to North Carolina and win a championship.
Especially if they got any kind of military parents, you going to Bill. Like it's hands down.
Yeah, maybe.
And North Carolina's a hotbed of talent. They got talent.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he does there for sure. But let's get back. So next segment. This is it. We kind of bled into this already, so bad hosting might be. Risk it for the biscuit. How do the Commanders learn from the Eagles? We already talked about this a little bit with the offensive line, defensive line, specifically the interior pass rusher. And as always, this is presented by Marsh McLennan Agency, your partner in risk and people strategies, right? So if I had to say, we did 2, and I think those were maybe the biggest takeaways probably from the game.
Yeah.
If I had you to pick 4 more, right?
Yeah.
From Philly. Like if we got to beat Philly.
How do we do it?
We said offensive line, defensive line, interior pass rusher specifically, right? If I said 4 more, what are they?
I say we need
Cornerback play.
Well, I think we got the quarterback.
No,
Corner.
All right, corner play.
Wow, you're just going to try and kill Santana?
No,
over here?
I thought he said quarterback.
Get the fans saying,
I'm just saying cornerback play. I just feel like, don't get me wrong, and I hate when we have these conversations because people think you're trying to say
we're trying to erase somebody.
No, I'm not saying that. But to be dominant, you need strong play. You see what I'm saying? Like it's like, okay, say for instance that team that.
So let me cut you off just 1 second. So when we say this, we're not saying that the people on the team are bad.
No,
at all.
Right? We're saying when you put your GM hat on, you got to think about how do we get to
How do I upgrade?
How do we get to the top of the mountaintop?
Yeah.
So, like, I love what everyone did this year. Like, literally, like, this was awesome to be a part of. Awesome to cover the team. Yeah. But if you got to get better.
What Philly showed us, we still need to get better. In the NFC Championship.
Did. They were okay defensively. They were okay last year defensively. But they made a huge investment there because they knew they had to get better there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about.
They spent their first 2 picks on defensive players, and they brought C.J. Gardner-Johnson back.
Yeah.
So they understood the message. But I would say, I love B-Rob, I love Eckler. I just feel like I want a game changer back there.
Yeah.
No, do they grow on trees? No.
Yeah.
I understand.
This year, there's a lot of them, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in this draft.
Yeah. I do believe too running back, but like I said before, I'm on the fence with the running backs because I feel like if you get a better line, you can get those yards that we didn't get against some of those stout defensive lines. You know what I mean? And getting back to my point about the cornerback play, I feel like bringing Lattimore in strengthened us. You know, but now let him play football, not, you're going to follow this guy. I hate that. I hate that whole I've always hated that. Because you can't single no guy out. It's not, I'm running full speed at you. If you ever in man, I should beat you, especially if I'm on this level. You see what I'm saying? So I don't care who you got. Deion Sanders, Revis Island, you going to get beat by somebody in this league in man-to-man. It don't matter. So I hate that we put that kind of pressure on guys like Lattimore, anybody who plays that position. Y'all, that's the toughest position in football, if you ask me. Cornerbacks is one of the toughest positions alone. So bringing him in strengthens us, but you get another guy or two that for depth. Because think about this. This is one of the examples I want to bring up. When we had a young RG3 at quarterback, why he was so successful that first year? Yes, one, we changed the offense for it to fit him, but his receivers was all guys that you had a Pierre Garçon, a young Pierre Garçon in his prime.
Yeah.
A dog.
You had Josh Morgan that was young, still in his prime.
Dog.
They moved me from Z and put me in the slot. So now I'm dominating from. I just came from outside dominating. I'm eating on the guys in the inside. So you had all these guys around him. You still had Cooley. You had Fred Davis. All those guys at tight end. So you had and my guy here, Mr. Paulson himself. But you had so many guys around him that made him better, you know, especially in the passing game. So he couldn't be wrong. He could throw
whoever he throw to is
we gonna make a play. That's what I mean by our defense and our cornerbacks. Like you want enough guys there with either where there's veteran leadership or who just know how to play football that you could never go wrong in the secondary now. You know, you could put him in situations where he's going to play corner the way I know he needs to play corner. So that's why I want to see more guys there that are true corners that I don't have to tell this particular guy he need to press him. You know when you got in certain games, no matter what coach told you about,
I'm gonna do it my way.
You say, you know what? Nah, I gotta slow this down. I gotta put hands on this dude. I need to see more of those kind of guys from us because I feel like we have the scheme, we have the players up, in front, but we need a guy too that say, you know what? Screw this. This is the only way I'm gonna be able to slow him down, and then be able to still do what I do.
Well, I think this is a segue into the next one. My second pick. I think we need a freakish tight end. You know, I always feel like the tight end is a quarterback's best friend. I really do. You know, Zach Ertz, what he did for us this year was unbelievable.
I need to see it again too, because I want Zach.
But I just know he's getting a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And I need you to train somebody for me. Yeah. And I just think freakish.
You don't think we have one in the building?
I think Ben Sinnott can develop into that. Yeah. But when I say freakish,
you want somebody to be like you want a Jordan Reed.
Yeah, Jordan Reed, Kyle Pitts.
You want to stand up, be able to,
I want a guy that we alert on defense. Yeah. Like we have certain guys we alert.
No, we got one. It's not one in the draft. Miami tight end.
No, I already know what you're talking about.
Royal?
Yeah, no, Royal, you can play.
He can play.
And it's like 6 tight ends. It's like 6 tight ends in this draft who I think are high-end talents. I want one of those guys because if you ever want us to play fair on defense, meaning we can't lean right, we can't lean left, and we can't lean to the run, put a good tight end on the field. You put a good tight end on the field, we play everything equal.
Well, it's safe to say this year when they tried to keep us honest offensively, they tried to do the best they could outside, and they left our tight end one-on-one, and they didn't think that Zach Ertz can still beat guys one-on-one. And he beat them to a potent, you know what I'm saying? So I just want a guy who can get open. Don't get me wrong, I understand that, but I just want somebody who can get open.
I got a question about this. So, like, obviously tight end, I think that's a really good point because, again, like what Zach did this year was so special. What a good tight end does from creating mismatches, what you can do from formation.
Safety net.
It's a huge deal. Would a second receiver
I was gonna get to that.
Yeah, that's your.
It could have a similar effect.
That's what I'm saying. Like is it Terry tight end and then running back, or is it Terry and then another wide receiver?
And I say this because I'm one of those guys. Like I said before, I feel quarterbacks do make receivers better. So if you got a quarterback like we have, those guys are gonna play ball. But you get in one of those games where it's a dog fight, dog on dog.
Yeah.
And one of them dogs got your dog by the neck.
Yeah.
You need another dog. You need it. Not a guy who's just playing good
to
because
just
the quarterback
free him up.
You need a guy to say, don't play with me.
Yeah.
Don't play with him.
Yeah.
You better find a way. So, you know what I'm saying? So like when you look at Cincinnati playing and see what, that damn
T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
So I feel bad at times when I watch those guys play because it's a shame how we just forgot. T. Higgins is a #1 receiver.
Just happened to be a 1B.
Just so happened that he started and he has 1,000 yards, 2 or 3 years before your boy get there. Jamar Chase get there. And it's like, oh, well, T. Higgins he's there. He's a guy now. Yeah. No, he's not a guy. Yeah. He's a guy that can go out and arguably be anybody's #1 receiver on their other team. So when you have a guy like that, he's a guy that if you do say I'm on road coverage over here to Terry or to Jamar, you have a guy in T. Higgins that you can't leave one-on-one. Or you can't even try to double him because he has that factor in him that he can go out there and dominate whatever you put in front of him. So I do believe if it's all said and done, we're going to need another guy like that.
A good #2 helps #1 blocks. Reach his peak.
But I guess the original question: can the #2 be a tight end, or does it have to be a wide receiver?
I think it can be both.
Okay. It can be both.
I think it can be both.
I think the G League can be both.
We saw that Zach was arguably our #2 receiver.
He was the #2. Yeah. But I think, especially from a defensive corner perspective, when we have 2 legit receivers out there, we tend to not double the other guy. We tend to do things differently. We tend to play on an equal field. Yeah. So maybe a guy on the outside, but to me he has to be totally different than Terry.
Just think about some of the teams that had 2 to 3 receivers. That was 2 of them was at least 1As and 1Bs.
Philadelphia.
So no, I'm finna get there. But I'm talking about in our years.
Yeah.
The Rams, Bruce and Hope.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, Reggie and your boy
Marvin
Harrison. And then they end up getting Stokely. I don't know how that happened.
And a tight end.
And a tight end, Dallas Clark. You know what I mean? And the edge in the backfield. So, and then let's keep going. Arizona had Fitzgerald and Bowden.
Yep, Anquan.
North Carolina had Musa Muhammad
and Steve Smith.
Yeah. So, just think about that. Like, that alone Like, you go into those games like, well, you got to stop 2 people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then the tight end could be whoever because now he's going to get
He's never going to get double team.
You see
He's
what I'm
going to be one-on-one. He's going to be one-on-one the whole time.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're saying, maybe a little bit more dynamic cornerback play, corner. Mm-hmm. It sounds like some offensive firepower.
Yeah.
And then if there's one more position that we kind of had to look at, I got one that I'm thinking about, but I wanted to ask you guys before we got going.
One more position. I feel good about the safeties. We need to re-sign Jeremy Chin.
I love our safeties.
That's the first thing we need to do.
He's a free agent, or a pending free agent.
Yep, and Bobby Wagner.
Pay him.
Yeah, I want Bobby Wagner back. All right.
So I was going to say, obviously Bobby Wagner bringing back the leadership. I think when you look at
we got Jordan McGee.
Yeah,
behind him,
so
right?
that's the thing I would say too, is like, can you find your Zach Bond, your Fred Warner, your Roquan Smith, and get him in there? Because I think Bobby did a good job this year, but I think you do also see sometimes
Age.
I mean,
can I ask you
I'm
something?
not trying to be mean about that.
No doubt.
Our GM is from the 49ers.
Yeah.
Drake Greenlaw is a free agent from the 49ers.
Yeah, he knows them well.
Yeah, he knows them well. Dre.
Brad Greenlaw's a mother's. Boy, you hear me?
He about that paint swapping. Bobby. Dre.
Yeah. But just having a guy, getting, to me, it's more about
That's
getting
why I'm
that.
not a GM, boy, because I'd be in there crying. I can't cut him. I won't do it.
I'm not saying cut anybody, but
I'm just saying.
But you got to make the hard decisions. That's your job.
In order for you to get some of these guys, you got to get rid of guys.
That's the way it is.
Both. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so getting that elite kind of underneath coverage player, a guy that you can with speed, that can attack the football. Again, we talked about offensive line, interior defensive pass rush, just pass rush in general, cornerback play, offensive playmaker, linebacker. I mean, that seems like
I feel like we cover them all.
Yeah.
I think we cover them all. I think if you think about it, you said receiver.
Yeah.
We had said O-line and D-line already. Cornerback. Get a
So basically, what we want to do is add at least one person.
You want to add depth.
I want to add at least one person to each room.
Yeah.
And I'm not adding them for the floor. I'm adding them for the ceiling.
I like that.
So you want a guy coming in already ready.
I want to shake up most of the rooms to the point where it's another alpha in every room.
So you basically saying, if you was ready last year, you're gonna be ready or not ready this year. 'Cause this guy gonna be ready.
This guy is here
to compete. I think that's some of the best teams I played for. They were hyper competitive,
and that's what you got to do.
Yeah, that's how it was, man. At that receiver room, like you bring them young guys in there, you be like, okay,
got some work to do. So even though this Super Bowl was kind of boring on paper, I do think it's illuminating, and I think it shows you kind of what the Commanders need to do to get. I mean,
to be elite,
to win the Super Bowl is ultimately what we're talking about, right?
Every room.
Yeah, and I think that's something that fans have a hard time with because, again, we love this team.
Yeah.
We have a hard time with it too.
Yeah.
Like Tanner was just talking about. You love these players, you love what they did, you love their commitment, but how do you go from good to great? And that's the hard thing.
And it's great that we don't have that problem of making those decisions,
Dude,
but it's
absolutely.
also great to have the guy here to make those decisions.
make the hard decisions.
So that's what I'm loving. I'm looking. That's why I say I sleep well now. I wiggle my toes like Fred say. Hey, I be sitting there like, what Adam gonna do tomorrow?
Yeah, you gotta do a great job.
He got to do the hard. He got to make the hard decisions, man.
And he's shown over his career that he's able to do that. But that's going to do it for today's show. So please make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Remember, Davio's, 7 to 8 p.m., Big 100 iHeartRadio. You can come by. The phone number for the reservation is in the description, right? So make sure you check that out.
Yeah.
We're also doing mailbags. That's coming up soon, too. Please make sure you leave that at
ThatHawkOutside at gmail.com.
There we go. That's going to do it for today's show. Thanks so much, guys.